It's Leif Erikson Day in Tokyo.
Oh my god. Okay, we definitely have to talk about that then.
Oh my god.
It's Leif Erikson Day in Tokyo.
Oh my freaking god. I'm so excited. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AdCast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your hot-blooded burning rescue, Renu.
And I'm your wanted fugitive, Madobanish Soup.
This week, AD stands for Atsui Tamashii, because we'll be talking about Promare.
Hella!
I'm so excited. I love the frick out of this movie.
A good movie.
Ooh.
Good movie.
But before we jump into Fire and Flames, what have you been up to?
So, surprisingly, I have not been playing a ton of Fire Emblem.
I'm actually really shocked to hear that.
Yeah, I haven't done a ton of it since I got back from Oregon. Mm-hmm. I played a chapter, basically. But I think yesterday I started playing Destiny 2 because now the game is free to play, basically. Like, they have a pretty decent amount of content that you can play for free before you have to, like, really buckle down and buy, like, an expansion or anything. Like, there's a very decent chunk of it that you can play for sure. But my friend was kind enough to buy me the expansion today, despite my great protests. So,
oh, that's nice.
I guess I'll make my way through Destiny 2 when I'm not, doing the podcast or like Overwatch. That's right. So the new season of the Overwatch tournament I was in I was gonna say last year, but it was really like months ago. Actually, it was not last year at all. Well, that is a new season has started of that, so now I'm on a team for that. So that's pretty fun. So we're doing, I think it's season 4 or 5 of GGNA. But yeah, it's we basically smashed together 2 teams that got to the finals of the beginner division last season, and now we're in the intermediate division. So that's kind of funny.
Oh, that's nice.
We've sort of got tied into a a better team, I guess. So yeah, that's mostly what I've been up to, like just Destiny, really. And that's only been the last like 2 days of my life. Other than that, I've been playing Grand Blue and like, oh, okay, so I did work on the house a bunch because we had to essentially put floorboards down on the upstairs room, because there's only one upstairs room, and if we get that sort of covered in the wood flooring, then it becomes instantly livable, right? And I think I think my dad finished that up like yesterday, but yeah, we spent most of the day doing that while other people that my dad hired built a deck to replace the old one, because the old one was pretty bad. So, all in all, pretty decent progress. The house is looking a lot better, and this is basically more or less the end of the work that we have to do. Like, I think my dad might have to do something to the stairs to make sure that they're consistent with the rest of the house. But other than that, like, we just have to wait until the house is leveled before we can actually do anything else to it. So, yeah. But for the moment, it's pretty livable, honestly. And
okay.
It sounds like my parents want to start spending their weekends there, possibly.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's what I've been up to. My body's still really sore from that. like I worked for like 2 days in a row, and it was like I literally on Sunday I worked, and then I ate dinner. Like, we went to buy groceries and ate dinner on a tiny grill. And then I drove home, took a shower, and then immediately got on to play D&D. So my schedule was packed from like 9 a.m. to whenever I went to sleep, which was like 1 or 2 in the morning. So
yeah,
that's whatever. That's fine. I have a convention coming up as well. Tomorrow, I am departing from my home and going. I'm basically making the same drive I would to my parents' like house. But I'm going to Big Bad Con, which is like a local small tabletop convention. It's a crowdfunding convention, so it's really cool. It's run by a guy named Sean Nittner, who's really neat. Very cool guy in the tabletop sort of sphere, like the design sphere. So yeah, I think that's gonna be fun. A lot of my friends from that sort of space are gonna be there, and we're gonna hang out, have a good time. Yeah, so that'll be fun. Which means, of course, that I will have to edit the podcast tonight so that it will be up in time on Friday, which will be hilarious. But you know what? That's just how it be. That's
in the name of fun, so you don't have to worry over the weekend.
Right. Yeah. That's mostly what I've been up to. It's nothing too grand, nothing too interesting. I still haven't gotten that job because they are still trying to open the position.
God,
because the government
are always but slow. Like, it takes months, dude.
It really does, and I really didn't expect it to take 3 months, but apparently it did. So
legit though.
I mean, yeah, but at least it's like they're still in contact with me, so there's like a very good chance.
That's
that,
a
like,
really
I'm gonna
good
be
sign
hired.
that they're keeping up with you.
So yeah, well, I'm also keeping up with them, and they're like, yeah, we're just trying to open the position. We're
good.
Hopefully, like, we wanted to be back to you earlier, but it didn't work out that way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm still here doing stuff. Yeah, playing too much D&D probably. Oh, last session was spicy, and it's gonna only get spicier.
I'm really excited. It was fun.
I'm glad you had a good time. Sometimes
I'm enjoying it.
Sometimes I feel like I have a little bit of trouble moving the spotlight harder than others might. Like, sometimes I worry, like, well, is this character not getting enough, like, time in the spotlight?
I can sense you making a conscientious effort to, like, make sure that everyone's included, and I appreciate it. Like, it's not done in, like, a heavy-handed way. It's done in, like, a, this person deserves some limelight too kind of way.
Yeah, and I obviously I want to make sure that everything develops sort of,
right.
Even if not at the
exactly.
same time, like, concurrently, right? Like, they don't have to all develop at the same time. It's just, So yeah, I'm really excited for where that's gonna go. I really enjoy having a game that's a little bit more structured, a little bit like with people that sort of expect a more structured experience. Because some people, like, some groups really like the, like, open-ended. We'll do whatever we want. We'll do this, and it always ends up sort of, we're gonna do a bounty, and now we're gonna do another bounty, and, like, you have to sort of find some way to connect all of that into an interesting narrative, and it's pretty. I don't know. When I don't have time for it, it's pretty difficult. But it can be interesting. But I'm glad that, like, we're having, like, a more structured experience, and that you guys are more interested in that. So
yeah, it felt like when things were a little bit like we could do whatever we wanted, we almost floundered a bit because our characters are a little bit aimless right now.
Yeah,
well, some of them are, at least.
That's the problem a lot of people kind of encounter with open-ended games, is that because there's nothing really to latch onto. Like, I try to provide hooks here and there, and luckily some of the characters have things that they really want to do.
Yes.
But if you have a bunch of characters that are, like, sort of just there for the ride, and, like, there's nothing really that they necessarily want to get. Like, I'm glad that at least half of the characters have been created with really strong attachments and, like, vendettas. and like deep-seated emotional issues. Like that's where the fun stuff is.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of tabletops, like our game is going pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I should prepare more for it, and then sometimes it's just kind of like, eh. Like,
I mean,
I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes even I get to a point where I'm just like, there's like so little I can really prepare for this because I don't really know what they're gonna do.
And that's fair. As a DM, there's only so much you can do, really.
There's only so much I can, predict.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm having a good time with that.
Okay.
I unfortunately have not made it to one of my D&D games in like 3 or 4 weeks just because I've been so busy.
Oh.
Because I've been forced to work on the house, and
Yeah.
I don't want to say no to the entire weekend because I don't have a job, so that's not a good look, really.
Right.
And I don't really have a lot of leverage in that regard. And
yeah.
like I just kind of have to come to terms with it because now that the tournament has started, the games are Friday and Saturday at 5 p.m. my time. And so, like, I don't want to flake on that, but I will probably have to just because my schedule is so just absolutely jam-packed, which is kind of a bummer, honestly. Like, I wish it wasn't that packed around the weekends, but that's when everybody wants to do stuff. So unfortunately, I thought it would work out because last season the games on Saturday were really early in the morning. They were like 10 or 11 in the morning. But this season they're at 5 p.m. So that cuts into my D&D time most likely because it should technically start at 3 and then we go for 3 or 4 hours, so I would have to lop off the last hour, and even then I would still be late to the game. So, like, I don't want to do that. Like, I would rather just halfway commit by doing it, like, full-time one week, and then the next week, something else. But obviously, that becomes even more complicated when I have things like Big Bad Con taking up my weekend, so...
Yeah, you're like triple booking yourself.
I am legitimately so tired. Like, I don't have a job, but I am so tired.
Yeah. You don't have a job, but you managed to keep busy, so that's good.
Yeah, and on top of that, I've just picked up Destiny 2, which is basically like an MMO. I've in 2 days reached 899 power, which is 1 below 900, which is the soft power cap, which is when I can start doing like actual stuff for real items. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Actually, that's gonna be pretty fun. I know basically nothing about Destiny other than your space wizards with guns,
right?
And that's about it. So
I don't know even less than that. So there you go. It's
a fun time though, and I mean you can pick it up at any point because the starting sort of area and story, like they give you the first year's worth of stories basically for free, and then the year 2 DLC or the year 2 expansion, and the year 3 expansion, I think. Either that or I'm getting this all sort of jumbled up, but like they give you a good amount of content to start to like sink your teeth into.
Okay.
So it doesn't ever at any point feel like you have to purchase any of the expansions. It is nice if you do, because you get some more content. But you know, that's just how it be.
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah. I actually got a free copy of Destiny 2 when I pre-ordered one of the Yakuza games.
What? That's so weird. What?
It was so bizarre. Like
that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. Like I went to go pick up my game, and then it came with 2 games, and I was like, "What is this?" And then it said Destiny 2 came with it for free because as a pre-order bonus.
That's so
really,
weird.
I was like,
what?
Why with my Yakuza game?
those two games have wildly differing tones, and also,
Right.
I mean, you did get a whole full game for your game, but
yeah, but
pretty
I have
much everything
no
in that
interest
game
in
is free
playing
now.
it. Like, it's still in its shrink wrap because I haven't played it at all.
Well, fair enough. I think it's fun, and
Okay,
it means that I'm gonna have to put Grand Blue sort of on the back burner, but whatever.
it's fine. You need to vary it up once in a while.
Yeah,
I
I need to vary it up. What have you been up to?
Not as much as you. I have officially started Inktober. We're about a week in, and I'm already mega behind.
Yeah, such is the case with these things. I tried NaNoWriMo like 4 years in a row in high school.
Oh,
And it
yeah?
just never panned out. The farthest I got
man.
was like, I don't know, like 2,000 words.
I've tried NaNoWriMo too, and yeah, I didn't get very far.
I might try it this year.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
Do you have like a story or whatever in mind that you'd want to try with?
I would just pick up the one that I tried the other time.
This took me 4 NaNoWriMos to write, but I got it.
Right. It doesn't matter how slow it is as long as you don't stop doing it.
Right, exactly. There you
I'll
go.
probably start over from scratch though, because I think my writing has changed somewhat drastically in 4 years.
Okay. I mean, I imagine it's changed at least a little.
But yeah.
Yeah, so
Inktober.
that's a thing. It's at least like because of the time shortage that I'm running into, like I've tailored down my ambitions quite a bit, and I've just become more accepting of the fact that it's gonna look ugly. But the important thing is that I'm drawing more
I was gonna say
regularly.
the important thing is that you do it.
Yeah, because I've in the past, I'd say like 2 months or so, I've been, traveling a lot, but also like while I've been at home, I haven't been motivated to draw much at all, and so I think this is going to be a good kick in the butt to get that going.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the meantime, I am still waiting for the Persona collab to drop in Star Ocean, and what's funny about it, I kind of forgot to mention this, is that one of the characters that they'll be having in the collab is Kasumi, the girl from Royal, the new character.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think it's hilarious that I could end up playing with Kasumi in my mobile game before I even touched Persona 5 Royal.
I mean, to be fair, I have Joker in Grand Blue Fantasy, and I've never actually played Persona 5 personally.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
So,
but at least he came out like after Persona 5, right? Came out.
Yeah, that's true. Is there going to be like a story to go with it, like a collab story?
Yeah,
or is it just...
yeah, it's going to have a little collab story, which I'm excited about too. So,
all right. Nice.
I don't know how they're going to tie a space fiction with Persona 5 Royal.
Do you know what?
But it'll be fun.
It's okay. Literally, anytime there is a Grand Blue collab, it's always just, oh, we have a dream, and then we wake up in the sky world.
Maybe they'll do
Woo.
that. Maybe they'll wake up somehow being summoned onto our spaceship, because that's how all of our Star Ocean characters got on there. They got summoned.
Wake up in space.
Yeah, they wake up in space, and it's not that odd, I guess, considering they had a whole space dungeon right in Persona 5. So I guess
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Phantom thieves in space. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and yeah, that's basically all I've been up to is Inktober and trying to sleep and make time for Inktober still.
Well, that's admirable.
Thank you.
Because God knows I'm bad at managing my time.
I'm glad you're self-aware, though.
I do so many things at once that I always have to compromise on something. Like, if it was up to me, I would be reading way more book. Mm-hmm. But I just am not. And I think to get to the point Because the thing is, my mind, the way that it works is I have to queue things up so that I do it like one at a time, or else I will never do anything. So I have to finish Fire Emblem before I can start reading books, which is weird.
But you set Fire Emblem aside for other games.
I know, that's why it's weird.
So why can't you set aside other games for books?
Because my attention span isn't that good.
It's all right. You know, every now and then I have to check in on you and be like, give up one thing you're doing right now so you can balance your life better.
Yeah, I will probably have to cancel one of my D&D games a week. It will not be ours, and it will not be my Friday game. And it probably won't be my Saturday game, because that's the only time I regularly see the people that actually live in my town. So it will probably be my Thursday game.
I must have forgotten that you had 4 concurrent games going on.
Yeah, so literally on a week where I have all my D&D, it's Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday night.
I was for some reason under the impression that you only had 2, which included ours. So I'm gonna say you need to cut on one of them.
Yeah, I think the Thursday one is the most easily cuttable, because like half of the players just want to play Destiny anyway, so we'll just play Destiny probably.
Just play Destiny, yes. Just pick one thing.
But yeah, my Friday game has been continuing unbroken since high school.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm glad you guys have been able to keep up with that.
And my Saturday game is with some different high school friends that I don't see super often, even though they live in my town. So there's that.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, I get to see all of you lovely people, which is nice.
Woo!
I also think that's the game I'm the most invested in, so.
Oh, really?
Well, because, like, you know, my Saturday game, it's like a drop-in, drop-out game, and I just don't have the time to, like, really engage with it as hard as other people might be able to. My Thursday game, I'm running, but, you know, it's kind of a whatever bullshit game. Like, we have fun there, basically. And my Friday game is the game that I've been playing for, like, DMing for and playing in the longest, like, unbroken. But it's also my friend's, like, first time DMing, so, you know, we're also just there to have a good time, basically.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah, I think, like, narratively the most engaging one is the Sunday game, rather. Just because, you know, we get to make a story together. And also, like, all of the people that we're playing with used to be in the same roleplay group.
Yeah.
So, like, we have so much experience playing, like, role-playing games with each other that it's pretty naturally, like, it's a pretty natural, like, you know, place for our group to end up, really.
I do enjoy picking up the chemistry, even though we all have quite different characters from, you know, our original group or whatever.
Oh my god, yeah.
The fact that we can just, like, pick up dynamics just right back up is really fun.
Yeah, I think it's a good time. Oh,
yeah.
I've also been playing some Borderlands 3, and I've not finished it yet because my friends are just never alive.
Okay.
But I think I can pretty conclusively say that it's just not as engaging as Borderlands 2 was, which is interesting.
Oh, I have heard things that, like, the plot isn't, I guess, as...
It's not as good. And I've definitely talked about why.
Yeah.
And part of it is because, you know, there's no real likable characters, but part of it is also the antagonists not being as good, honestly.
Right.
Like, Handsome Jack was a great antagonist. Like a great
he was
main
like
antagonist.
the star. That's
Yeah,
that's the impression that I got, at least from what I watched of Tales from the Borderlands.
It's like, you know, it's like when you watch like part 3 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and they're like fighting Dio, and you're like, whoa, my god, and then like you get to part 8 and there's no central antagonist, period. And you're like, I'm here for everything except for the fact that I don't know what we're doing. And that's a lot of what Borderlands 3 feels like, where it's just like, I like that I'm here in the space, but there's nothing to guide me and nothing for me to, like, necessarily cling to. Right. But I do think Part 8 of JoJo's is better than Borderlands 3.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Comparative to, like Part 8 of JoJo's compared to other JoJo's parts.
Yes.
And Borderlands compared to other Borderlands games.
There's less of a gap.
Yeah. I think Borderlands 3 is probably, like, maybe a little bit better than Borderlands 1 in terms of story, but Borderlands 1 had almost no story, so...
It's not a high hurdle to
not
clear.
a high bar.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Yeah. What else have you been up to?
I mean, honestly, it's been it. I've been having trouble, like, trying to manage my time.
Okay, fair enough.
What little I have, so... Yeah. I think that'll probably be how it is the rest of the month.
Fair enough. That is just how it be.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we get to talking about our hot topic of the podcast?
Let's get right into it, because this is, it's lighting up my burning firefighter spirit.
Oh my god, if I have to hear him say his freaking burning soul, oh, I will lose it.
No, it's so good. I love it.
It's really not. Oh god. It's good for like the first, like 3-5 times, and then he says it for like the 12th time, and I'm like, done. I'm laying on the theater floor like, please end me.
It's so good. Okay, so we're going to talk about Promare this week, and Promare is a feature-length animated film co-produced by Trigger and X-Flag. It was directed by Hiroyuki Imaishi, who was a key animator on Evangelion, and it was written by Kazuki Nakashima, who was the head writer for Kill la Kill. So, prime Trigger. Like, this is prime Trigger. The music is by Hiroyuki Sawano, because... I mean, of course. Like, why not?
It is. Why wouldn't it be?
If you need an anime composer for your big action movie, it's Hiroyuki Sawano. There's no one else, apparently.
Him or bust.
There's only this is the impression I get is that there's only 2 or 3 Japanese composers for anime. One is Hiroyuki Sawano, and one of them is Nobuo Uematsu, and he only does Final Fantasy stuff.
I have a hard time arguing with you.
That's what it feels like, honestly.
Sometimes it just feels like that.
Anyway, the setup for the movie is that 30 years ago, people started mutating fire powers and then caused an enormous hellblaze that destroyed pretty much the entire planet. And then we did the whole, well, you suck, and we oppressed them. And then a terrorist group rose up, because of course it did, and they're called Mad Burnish. Madobanish. Mm-hmm. And now we're here. That's literally it.
Yeah.
That's the setup for the movie.
Yep.
There's terrorists and firefighters that fight the terrorists that set the fires.
It's pretty straightforward,
Which honestly is good, because I feel like when Trigger gets overcomplicated, it doesn't go well. Obviously, obviously Evangelion was fine, but that's such a different story than anything they've done since they've left Gainax.
Yeah, Evangelion it started off kind of complex, and then it got really complex, and then with this movie, it started off uber simple, and then Trigger just had to swirl that hot cauldron of freaking science. And
I mean, honestly, I don't even care that much about it. I think it was fun. By the way, if you're not aware, this is not a spoiler-friendly podcast. We're gonna spoil
everything in this movie. Yeah,
I feel like it's been a while since we said that, so there's your disclaimer.
Here it is. So, I guess we can just start with, before we jump into the mess of plot. Let's jump into the most obvious selling point of this movie, which is the animation.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It is probably the best animated thing that I've seen. Like, I don't know, honestly. Sword of the Stranger? Like, I think I have to reach that far back. Because, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think in terms of recent years and what's come out of, like, Japan in terms of animated movies, this is definitely, like, top tier animation. Like, you would be hard pressed to think of something better out of
as far as a, like, high budget, like, animated action anime movie, like, there's no comparing this to really anything else that has come out in years.
Right.
Like, obviously things like Kimetsu no Yaiba have really good animation for being television animation, to the point where because it's so consistently good, like, that's a different conversation to have. But, like, oh my god, Trigger was like, we're gonna do a movie, and we're gonna do a movie the way that we will do a movie, which is to say, we will take the animation dial and we will crank it up to 24.
Yeah,
like, this is a 1 to 10 dial, and we're gonna
I think the last time I was this moved by an animation out of Japan, because obviously I've seen Spider-Verse, and that
exactly
blew my mind, but was probably maybe A Silent Voice, because that was pretty, but in a very different way. Probably like in the exact opposite spectrum of Trigger.
Yeah, so I think you're completely spot on there, actually. Like, I think Trigger and KyoAni are exactly, like, polar opposites in terms of how good their anime is, because they're both amazing quality animation, but, like, Studio Trigger is just like, we're gonna make this the most fun thing you've ever seen with your human eyeballs. We're gonna make sure that you can't blink anymore. Whereas KyoAni is so good at, like, making everything gorgeous and, like, post-processing it to a point where it looks like every scene is like a painting.
Yes.
Whereas Trigger's like, we're gonna move this shit so fast you can't blink.
Yeah, you have to watch every single frame.
Like,
and
you're gonna want to absorb this. Like, so many times. You're gonna want to buy the Blu-ray just to watch the anime over and over again.
That's exactly what I want to do.
I want to buy the Blu-ray for this movie so bad. I don't have a Blu-ray player. I just want to see it. Yeah. So, I don't even know where to begin with how good the animation is. It's like, it's amazingly dynamic. It's fluid. It flows just absolutely perfectly. The effects are just beautifully contrasted against the, like, actual, I guess you would say, like, rigs, like the models. Like, I think it was a very interesting choice to not make any of the fire red.
Yes.
And I think it worked really well.
I think it worked beautifully. It was stunning.
Yeah, it was really good, and it still stays very readable. Like,
yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
I think the thing about it is, when you watch the, like, action scenes, which, when I say action scenes, I mean the whole movie is one action scene. Like, there's action, and then, like, a little tiny breather before the whole rest of the movie is just fighting. Which I love, because that's what I want from a movie, and that's what I want from a Studio Trigger movie. But, like, even though, like, because they did a lot of 3D animation in this movie, to the point where everything looks a little bit 3D all the time. Like, they did a ton of sweeping perspective shots, and it looks so good.
Really good. And they have, like, so many, like, long camera shots of just pure action. It's crazy. I'm like, have they cut the camera once during this sequence?
Well, I think that's the thing, though, is they, aside from those, like, cut-ins where they, like, show the mechs and then the people's faces, and they kind of flash that over and over again. Like, they do that a couple times. But aside from that, because they hold the camera shot for so long, it's such a readable fight.
Oh, I love it. Yes, because you just get to follow the motions and the combat, and you not have to worry about, like,
almost never lose track of where the actors are on the screen.
Exactly. Yes.
Like, this movie has been engineered to sheer perfection in terms of how good the animation is, because any faster and you cannot follow it.
Yes.
Any slower and it might not be as satisfying.
Yep. I agree. 100%.
Like, the weight of the animation is so good too. Like, when they're in mechs, boy. It's really fast, but they're in mechs, and it's so heavy. It's so meaty. Meaty. The last time I felt this wowed by like giant robots punching each other was the first time I watched Pacific Rim. I mean, I guess it wasn't giant robots punching each other. It was robots punching monsters. But like, you know, there are obviously, that's structured more like a classic movie where you have like big fight set pieces, and then you have like the more character focused scenes. Whereas Promare is almost all action. Like, I would say about 80 to 90% of it is action scenes.
Right.
And like, I think that really works for this movie. And I think it's very much like becoming a sign of like, it is the Trigger signature, because it's basically the same the story that they've been doing for the last like 20 years.
They will never stop, I feel like, at this point. Unless their staff changes enormously, they're just gonna keep doing what they love. And
the people who like inevitably move on from Trigger, if they do, are just gonna do the same thing in a different
They're
studio.
gonna do the same thing at the next studio.
Right. Like, they just want to animate giant mechs doing lots of cool fights. And you know what? That's incredibly valid. I will watch an entire 3-hour movie with just that. I promise you. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. The animation is gorgeous.
It's beautiful. And I was sitting there counting, like, how many styles of art have I seen in this, in the first 15 minutes? Because there was CG, which was obviously great from the mech side, which was animated by Sans again, who recently did Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yes, which a lot of it looks quite good. Some of it could
I haven't
be better.
seen any of it, but I'm trusting your judgment.
Well, they didn't. So the thing is, I honestly couldn't tell you, because I don't think I've seen about 30% of the cutscenes. Because I played the fucking route that doesn't have any cutscenes.
Well, there you go.
Oh well, I'm playing the one that I think has the most cutscenes next. Or I'm in the middle of that one. Yeah, right. I think some of it looks good. Some of the bigger set pieces look better than some of the smaller ones. Like the dance, like the ball one, could be a little bit better, but overall it's pretty proficient. Okay. But their work in Promare is like stunning. It's good.
Oh, it's amazing. They also apparently collabed a bit with Studio Kara, which we all know is from the big Evangelion, all the rebuilds and whatnot.
Man, the rebuilds also look so good.
Yeah. So you know that they had top tier quality mech CGI. So good. So good. They even had freaking pixel art, which I was a little shook by.
Oh yeah.
During the scenes where she's looking through her scope and she's looking at their heat signatures or whatever, that's all pixel art.
I thought that was super cute.
I was like, oh my god, this is adorable. How dare you combine another style of art in this already beautiful anime?
That's true.
Of course, they had, hand-drawn 2D animation in compositing with all the 3D goodness. They had freaking graphic design-esque backgrounds that, the kind of style that you might see in like stuff like Firewatch and all that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, very like geometric, but stunning color palettes, that kind of thing. Like if you remember the scene where they're on the ice lake and the sun is rising. And while
I did notice that it was like that. Yeah, the backgrounds are quite stunning.
Yes. Like very, very beautiful.
There's not a piece of this movie that looks bad. Like not a single one.
There was like I think there were a couple of instances where I saw that they had drastically simplified the character renderings to basically what you would see like if they were to do like an animation series, you know, kind of like if there was like a transitional scene or whatever, you kind of draw the characters very like, wow, there they are. You can recognize them from their silhouettes.
Right.
But those were during like plot times or something, like, you know, when they were entering the cave and the secret cave of the scientist guy or whatever. There were a couple moments where it's just like, I can see where they saved on budget during those points, and I don't mind it because this is an important action scene.
I don't mind it, and honestly, it didn't even look that bad.
It didn't even look that bad, exactly. Yeah, so I have nothing bad to say about this animation, like at all.
Yeah, I honestly think it might be one of the most flawless pieces of animation I've watched since Spider-Verse. Like, Spider-Verse and Promare, definitely right there.
Yeah, yep, 100%.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I think that about covers it. Like, the animation is so good. And, like, there is, this might be the, like, inner 12-year-old in my heart, but there is just nothing better than watching, like, mechs bash into each other with, like, really heavy, sort of meaty punches. Like, it's so good.
It's so good, and the fact is that even if you hate Studio Trigger or whatever, you've never liked their works and whatnot, I feel like the animation in this movie is worth watching regardless of where you come from.
I would tend to agree, and I think that even, like, the general Trigger conventions that you have are toned down a little bit and refined. Like, there's not a ton of fan service.
Isn't.
Aside from the fact that Gallo goes the entire movie without wearing a shirt. Basically, there's one scene where, there's, like, one sequence where he wears a shirt, and it's where he has to put the medal on.
Yeah, there's him, and then there is Aina, who is definitely there. She exists basically as a fan service model, but even she's not that bad.
I was gonna say, there's, like, one butt shot right in the beginning, and then from then on, it's, like, kind of whatever.
Right, and then there's a more close-up shot of her kind of towards the end. You get to see all her curves and whatnot, and it's like, all right. And then she's, of course, in the Darling in the Franxx pose. Whenever she's in her, you know, fire truck mech. But that's it. And considering this is Studio Trigger we're talking about, and the writer for Kill la Kill.
Right, that's downright conservative.
Yeah. Which I'm wondering if they intended to do that, because it felt like this movie could potentially be approachable for a much younger audience.
I think so. I think the idea was that they were supposed to market it towards a more general audience. And I think that was a good choice. And thank God for that the only, like, real fan service that we get is, like, 2 small shots, and then we have, like, Gallo being a himbo the entire movie.
Himbo? Oh my God, I've never heard that term
You've
before.
never heard that? That's my favorite new word.
I can't believe you just...
He's extremely a himbo. Yeah. I honestly think that this is probably one of the most approachable Trigger works.
Yeah.
Aside from Little Witch Academia.
Yeah.
Unless you're like I don't know. Maybe if the flashing lights would, like, you know, like, trigger something in you, or like, maybe if you just get motion sick really easily, like, I can imagine that might be a problem. But, like, really, even if you don't like Trigger works generally, this is such a good one to watch.
Yeah.
Because, like, the animation is ridiculous.
It's at the very least for the animation, so you can just see what they accomplished. Just give it a go.
Like, it might be like one of the best pieces of animation of the decade.
Yeah.
Like, we're rapidly approaching 2020 now, and I think that this really is, like, taking the crown at the last minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously the music is by Hiroyuki Sawano. Music cues are obviously on point. Anytime something cool happens, you get the Sawano, drop, and it's like bah, bah, brr, 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 brr. So it's real Sawano drop hours for sure. Everything you would come to expect from Hiroyuki Sawano, like very like new sort of punchy, sort of electric music, kind of wubby, but not in like an extreme like dubstep house way. Very like it fits. Like it very much fits. Like if you're gonna make mechs punch each other, you might as well get Hiroyuki Sawano to score it. Like it's pretty straightforward. I will say the music goes really fucking hard, and I want to listen to the soundtrack basically forever.
I mean, obviously. And oh my god, when freaking Leo's theme comes on, the Kakse by Superfly, oh my god.
So
I got
good.
chills, dude. It was
so good. I mean, it's such a simple thing to do, to have it just be like, okay, here's your character, here's their theme, bam. But like, it's executed just flawlessly. It's so good.
Yes, so good.
Okay, let's talk about characters. There's not a lot of them, even though there are a lot of them.
Exactly. This is a great way to summarize it.
And you know what? To be honest, I think that's fine.
Really,
like,
I wanted a bit more. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, I do think that a like extended version, like 30 minutes to an hour longer, and like more of the supporting cast involved would have been just great. But as what it is now, it's pretty good.
Yeah, as it is now, it's good. I would have liked for them to have managed the time a bit better, and in the, I guess, laggier times where it felt like the pace dropped a lot, I would have wanted to see more characterization, at least in more subtle ways, if not more obvious ways. Like, rather than having our homeboy yell about his burning soul for the 10th time, maybe have him yell something else, or have him, interact a bit more with the other characters. I felt like they had a lot of missed opportunities where instead of repeating basically the same lines that would characterize them in the same way, they could have done a little bit something differently to kind of round out the characters a bit better.
I think to be fair, like, they are working in a very restrained sort of space. And
of course.
I think the choice, like, because like I agree that like I would have liked to have seen more from like the commanding officers of like Mad Burnish and the burning rescue team. Although what's really I think they had more planned for them, and they just ran out of like runtime. Basically, like, we don't want this movie to be 3 hours, because if you actually look at the like character details in like the art book, I hear it gets really fucking weird. Like the Mad Burnish commanders are from Australia, and one of them turned Burnish in Dallas and the other in Florida. Fun fact, Leo turned Burnish in Detroit, and that's what they named their bikes after.
Oh, that's fun.
And apparently there's like a whole thing about Remy, the character with the glasses, being in a relationship with an alligator.
Okay.
But the alligator becomes the rat, Remy, or whatever, or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. I see, that's the thing about it, is that the characters that they made, like design-wise at least, feel very like strong. Like, they are so well designed, and I feel like there's a lot of things to them that just never get touched on at all.
Yeah,
like, that they had already established, but they just don't go into.
I think Trigger's really good at making very punchy character designs that like immediately can kind of convey to you what they're about. Like, I definitely agree they could have done more with the characters, but I understand why they didn't.
Yes, I completely understand why they didn't, but I think they could have, and I feel like it was
could have,
like
yeah.
just like the slightest missed opportunity, because when the characters get introduced in the first, 15-20 minutes of the movie, like my excitement level is like at freaking 11 out of like 12 out of 10. Like it was like I was so excited, and I was like, oh my god, the action, oh my god, these characters, they all look cool, and they're all coming together as a team, and then the characters don't hardly change at all. Like what you know from them at the beginning of the movie is basically what you know of them at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there isn't much more that gets built on top of that. Like, yeah, Leo has a bit of a character arc where he learns how to trust Gallo and not take everything on himself, and Gallo learns more that the things that he's believed in this whole time have basically been a lie. But other than that, like you don't get to learn more about these characters in much more than that, and it's a bit disappointing. But I understand that wasn't their focus, and that they had a limited amount of time to convey these characters, so they gave them super strong character designs, which I loved. I had only wanted their writing to be as good as the character designs.
Yeah, and obviously, I think like the thing about Promare is that it's such a distillation of everything that Studio Trigger Gainax has really ever done in like this space. Like it's like everything that was ever good about any of those shows distilled into like a 2-hour movie. So I definitely agree. Like I think if the movie was longer, honestly, like there is very little that I would be able to point out that I would actively be like, well, you could just like, cut this for some other stuff. Like it's such a tightly written, like it's such a tight, I'm not gonna say tightly written, but it's a tight experience.
Yeah.
And I completely understand if they took some of these moments away to do other stuff, the impact would not be as strong. And I think they knew that, and they really focused on that. Like, the fact that all of the sort of central characters become apparent about like 20 to 30 minutes in is, I think, something that happens on purpose. And
and that's fair. I think it's because I went in expecting that would be the case, right? I expected for Trigger to like punch me in the face with how good its animations would be, that I would have a lot of fun watching it, which I did. I would get very hyped for it, but that the writing for the characters would not necessarily live up to my expectations.
Right.
Because that's how it is with all their shows, unfortunately for me.
I got the level of Kill la Kill, at least.
Yes.
So I'm personally satisfied with it.
Right. But I think that's a gripe that I've had with all of their works, and I think I just need to come to terms with the fact that I gotta take them for as they are.
I think so, and I think especially more so in a movie.
Yeah.
Like the reason that I'm so willing to overlook it in this movie is because like they've sort of consciously chosen to focus on other stuff, and they've refined it to such a point that it just kind of makes up for it, honestly. Like, the characters are basically as they appear. Like, Gallo is your straightforward protagonist who just yells a lot. Like, he's basically like if Kamina was the main character of Gurren Lagann the whole time.
Yep.
And it's kind of fucking great. Like, Leo is incredibly prickly, and he just needs to learn how to trust people. And he does, and that's kind of fucking great. You know the governor is bad news bears, and he is. And it becomes worse news bears, and you're like, oh shit. And like, that's basically the characters that you have. Like, you have a little bit about like, Aina, the pink-haired one, and her sister. Yes. Like you have a little thing about that, and you're like, oh, I see where this is going. It's like it's gonna like be like this, and she's gonna learn like, oh, I never should have trusted you, etc., etc.
Yeah,
right.
I do like their arc. I like their story.
I think it's good. Yeah, I think it reminds me a lot of the way that Kimetsu no Yaiba's story is written, in that it's so fast and it uses shonen tropes as shortcuts, like. They're basically fast tracks to understanding and like I would almost say to empathizing with characters, because I think it's very easy to get invested in the story because it's so straightforward. Like, they really don't have any kind of, like, complexity about it whatsoever. And that makes it really easy to engage with characters. And while that can be not as interesting in a series, I think it really works in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, it feels like Trigger's very suited to making movies.
That's what I was thinking this whole time, is because even though I loved Kill la Kill and, of course, Gurren Lagann
exactly.
and all of that, their series tends to, I mean, like a lot of anime series, tends to slow down a lot in the middle. Like,
yeah.
I had to force myself through a lot of the middle of Gurren Lagann, again with Kill la Kill, and it was like, I didn't understand. I was like, I'm about to drop off of these anime, but I know that they, like, end very, like, bombastically, so I gotta watch it through to the end. And so the fact that they were able to compress that experience into a movie meant that that draggy long bit of the middle gets shortened by quite a bit in a 2-hour movie, which is, like, I think that's great. I think they definitely played to all of their strengths in this movie.
I also think that this movie may be the single most, like, fun movie I've ever seen. Like,
it was so fun
because it's so fun, and you can tell that the people making it are having the time of their fucking lives.
Yeah,
they're having,
like, we're making
such
something
a good
beautiful,
time,
and we're having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, like I mean, fuck, dude, it was good. Like, I think that obviously there are certain things that they have sacrificed to make to focus on other things, right?
Yeah.
Character writing and like character development, I would say, being one of them.
Yeah.
Like, the arcs are pretty straightforward. They're nothing new. They're nothing that special, but because they're executed very well and because everything else about it is so good, it kind of comes to a place where it's a lot easier to come to terms with and accept that than it would be otherwise. Like, if the main character of Promare was Simone, it would not be a good movie. Like, I think that Simone is a great, like, probably the best character that these people have ever written in terms of, like, a leading character, but he only really works in a series because you need that long development time that doesn't come in a movie. Like, you could do it. I don't think it would be as strong as Gallo just being, you know, a very, I mean, he's a himbo. Like, he is essentially like, I'm trying to do the right thing, but the thing that he thinks is right is something that people have been lying to him about forever. And then when he learns that, he's like, oh no, fuck off, I'm gonna go over there and be with my boyfriend. So, you know, I'm very glad about that. Like, they know what worked, and they know what would work in a movie. And to be fair, they did turn Gurren Lagann into 3 movies. So, in all fairness, like, they seem to like making movies, because, like, as good as, you know, Kill la Kill is, and, like, Little Witch Academia is at times, like, a lot of Trigger stuff can not be as good if they try to tackle a more, like, complicated, serious show. Like, Darling in the Franxx was not good. Kisniver was okay. It wasn't good.
Right, and one of my favorite works by them was freaking Space Patrol Luluco, which was super simple.
Absolutely.
And also a short form, so it just worked.
Well, and this is why I'm just saying that, like, everything that Studio Trigger ever really makes is basically just the same thing in a different setting.
It is the same thing.
Like, all of the characters are the same. All of the story beats are the exact same, but they're having so much fun doing it that you can't help but kind of tag along. Like, turn your brain off and just watch the movie. Like, Space Patrol Luluco actually, I think, was really good. And to be honest, I got surprisingly invested in it. Like, even at the end, I was like, whoa, I'm, like, feeling emotions. Whoa.
Right. I was like, where is this coming from? I didn't know that I was already invested in these babies.
Because it was like everything that you know, Studio Trigger is good at, distilled into a shorter format that really helps. Like, I think when they have more time, they don't really know what to do with it.
Exactly.
Like, they just
that's
kind of
exactly
want
the vibe I
to
get.
string shit together and make things fight, which I get, and that's valid, and it's really good.
Yep.
And this is like maybe the perfect version of that.
Yeah.
Like, I sincerely cannot think of a way that they could go more in that direction without just, like, ruining anything, right? Like, too far and you get to a point where things start to become incomprehensible. But, like, there's just enough breathing time in the middle, like 25, 35 minutes in, that the next sort of action sequences feel pretty good.
Right.
And, like, stuff is continuing to happen. Like, it's very much we're not going to overstay our welcome with this stuff. And
right.
I definitely agree. Like, I would have liked to see more and learn more about the Burning Rescue members.
Yeah, and yet at the same time, it's because we know that they wouldn't really know what to do with the extra time. I feel like it would be wasted.
It probably wouldn't be good anyway, is the thing.
Yeah.
So that's probably fine.
It's probably for the best that they cut it down and cut it out. Any extraneous stuff that we would have liked to have been used toward characterization.
Yeah. I also think it's really funny that they use Aina to basically, like, HETBAIT.
They did. Yes, they did. You know they did. I saw it and I was like, here we go. I rolled my eyes during that part when they were on the lake, and I was like, okay, whatever. And then later on,
and then you were like, that, like, the scene happens where he's just like, well, I guess I gotta do this, and I'm like, there is no reason that you have to do this. And then they kissed for medical reasons. It's medical reasons.
They did it.
Definitely medical reasons and nothing else.
Yep.
My God, it was good.
What I like about it is that they kind of like hint that she's like she maybe has feelings for Gallo, but then they just don't revisit
They just drop it halfway there because they're like, this doesn't matter. Fuck off. They like dunk that shit in the trash can. They're like, out of here. Like, there is like the scene where that happens, where like they're kissing, lingers for so long.
It was so long. See, this is the thing though, is that like you could say it's just for medical reasons and whatever. Like the people who actually are so against any kind of like potential romantic whatever hijinks between these two characters. Yes, you could say that it's just because he wanted to breathe some life into this boy. But they spent so long on this scene.
I swear to God, it is at least 10 to 15 seconds uninterrupted.
Yes!
It's so long.
So long.
Like, I was like so hyped for that moment because I was like, oh, here it comes, they're gonna do it. And I was shocked at how long they lingered on that scene. I was like, oh my God, they mean business.
That's so real. Because they put it right at the moment where in any other movie you would expect like the hero gets the big kiss from the girl or whatever, or, you know,
right.
Like they're having like a very dramatic moment, the climax, you know, and then they put this scene there.
The thing is, it is extremely the same energy as, it's like basically if you had two characters like, and they had like, one did CPR to the other, and it's supposed to be like, oh, this isn't romantic, but secretly they both like it. Like, that's literally what this is. Like, and they linger on it for so long that there's no way that they didn't intentionally use it as a focus to be like, guys.
Yes, guys, look at this.
Like, they did that, and then they used the power of their relationship to fix the planet.
Yes.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yes.
It's so good. Okay. It's very gay. Let's talk about the plot.
Wait, before we move on.
Oh, before we move on.
We have to mention Mayumi Shintani makes
Oh, that's right. One of the characters is Mayumi Shintani. And it's the small one.
The small one, the quirky one, as always.
You know what? Mayumi Shintani can continue to voice trigger characters for the rest of my mortal existence, and I will continue to be happy about it.
Yeah, me too, though. Every time I hear her voice, I'll be like, hey.
Listen, Mayumi Shintani is my favorite Studio Trigger character.
She's great.
You got straightforward, you got Himbo, you got Prickly, you got Mayumi Shintani, and Bad Guy.
And the bad guy.
So, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about the plot, which is pretty straightforward aside from like a little bit of like trigger twisty.
They compressed all the twisties into like one, maybe like 10-minute segment, which I was really impressed by.
Yeah, they were very good about it, I think. Like, because here's the thing about a lot of like Japanese, like, I think a lot of Japanese movies do this, where they have the kind of like slideshow explanation. Like, literally, it's just click, explanation, click. It's like a literal PowerPoint presentation. And Studio Trigger is especially blatant about doing this, where their explanation, their exposition is always just da 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 da. Like, here's the backstory. Here is what happened. Go.
That's exactly what they did. Like, when they first started talking about Foresight's backstory, I was like, oh, here it is. Here's the slideshow. And it literally went by like a slideshow.
And they literally play it like a slideshow. They're so blatant about it. And honestly, like, it just goes to show you that they just don't give like a shit, like even a single fuck about any of it.
It works because they're like, these are necessary story beats. You actually need to know this, but we gotta move on.
Right. And like that's why this is such a good distillation, because they understand like how much they can get away with not saying things.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, so here is everything that has happened in a 5 to 10 minute segment. The Promare, which is the fire, is aliens. That's what causes burnish. We made a giant robot because reasons. The dude shot me and he's a bad guy. Go. Yeah.
And they were like, oh, parallel universes, blah, blah, blah. You don't really actually need to understand all this stuff. Look at Gallo. He's asleep. All right, let's keep going.
And then, like, the whole movie is so fun and a little bit tongue-in-cheek the whole time. Like, the robot, like, that they unearth is Deus Ex Machina.
Oh, my God.
It's so silly.
Dude, the theater that I was watching it in just, like, erupted at that moment. They were screaming and they were laughing. Oh, my God. It was so funny.
I think this is such... I will say that watching Promare is one of the best experiences, like, in a full theater, because everybody you can tell is having such a fucking great time watching it.
Yes.
People are yelling, they're laughing, they're like, woo, Deus Ex Machina!
Yes.
Like, everybody's cheering, and it, like, you kind of get wrapped up in that moment of, like, really being engaged on a very human level, like, tangentially with all these people while watching something that's just super fun. Like, it's such a fun time.
Yeah.
It's literally just 2 straight hours of I am enjoying myself immensely.
Right, exactly.
Which is so rare
sit there
these
with a big old
days.
smile on your face. Yeah.
It is a movie that you cannot help but grin while watching, because you're like, oh damn, here comes the robot smackdown. And also, of course, it's a drill because, you know, it's Trigger. Because
it's frigging Trigger.
They have to have a drill.
They need a drill. The drill to drill all the...
And then they like Gatai and like fucking duo pilot a mech. That is just the ship mech. That is just them having their Pacific Rim relationship.
It's Evangelion 3.0.
It's the Eva 3.0 that we've always wanted.
It's Gallo de Leon. I was sitting there, I was just like, Gallo de Leon, Evangelion. Gallo de Leon, Evangelion. I was like, they had to have done this on purpose. They had to have made these names that similar on purpose.
Also, just a side note about the characters. Gallo, I just love that he's just an unapologetic weeb. Like, he's just like, my burning firefighter spirit with this firefighting stick from the east. He's such a fucking nerd.
He reminds me a bit of Owain.
He's so Owain. Incredibly Owain. He's like, oh man, I can't get into this. He's like, okay, cool. I'll make the robot cool for you. And he's like, this makes me feel so good.
See, that's more of the stuff that I wanted to see. It was more of that little bit of like, you know.
Yeah.
He's not just about burning Saul. He's also got a bit of other quirk to him too.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like Gallo is like one of the characters that gets to because he's one of like 3.5 characters.
Yes,
so
it's true. It's
very
true.
fair, very fair. Yeah, I think that like the overarching plot is fine. Like it works. It doesn't have anything that it doesn't need to. It is so like just barefaced honest about what it is that you can't help but be like, oh, okay, Studio Trigger, you can do that. I'll let you get away with it this time, you scamps.
Scams.
So yeah, basically, the plot begins with people. It begins with like the emergence of the Burnish, which is when people start becoming fire people and setting the planet on fire. And then a big fire happens.
I really felt it, though. Like,
it's pretty good.
When that guy was getting anxiety over getting pushed around in the train, or when that guy was sitting in traffic, I was like, I feel this in my heart.
Yeah,
so
there's literally, like, it was funny because they showed the Golden Gate Bridge, and I was like, oh, hey, that's me.
Yeah, right?
But, like, boy, I because like the thing is, there's not a lot of I don't think there's any dialogue in that opening sequence, but it's still so good.
I think the only dialogue, if I remember correctly, was like a news report or something, basically giving you the exposition on Burnish. Yeah,
right. But the whole intro sequence where they like actually explode is like basically unvoiced, and it's so good in terms of visual storytelling. Like it's so good. Yeah,
it's spot on, and I was like, man. If I was under that much stress, I too would probably combust into flames if I was a Burnish.
Yeah. And then they caused a big catastrophe called the Great Blaze, I think it was what it was called. And it basically destroyed most of the world. But then they rebuilt a big city, and now most people just live in that one. And there's terrorists called Mad Burnish who are like, stop oppressing us, Jesus Christ, please?
Yeah, because they've basically gotten to a point where they hunt them down like animals and put them away.
Right. I was like, I see.
It was
we're
uncomfortable because we live in America. And
this is true.
Are happening here that are
well, I think
not all that different.
The sort of outer level of all of it is very couched in like current like anxieties. Like there's very much, the people who are being oppressed and like the laws are being used against them, and they're being like sort of quote unquote unlawfully, but like really like, or quote unquote lawfully, I should say, being like arrested just because they can be. Yeah, because like it's an easy way to sort of like blame someone for your problems.
Right. I think it plays into a lot of the political unrest that, countries all over the world are feeling right now. Of course, we have the more obvious examples of like the Hong Kong protests and stuff like that. But yeah, I think anyone from basically any country can relate to the fact that government coming after you.
Yeah, basically. It's like government and corporation has become the same thing, which is not a subtle, like, it's not subtle.
No,
and then
not
you have,
at all.
And then you have the fact that the dude in charge of all of that is literally going to escape the planet using disgusting amounts of human sacrifice with Jeff Bezos, which is like, so it kind of reminds you of something that's like happening like right now, where rich people are like, we're researching a lot of spacecraft using the billions of dollars that we have from, I don't know, not paying our workers a living wage.
Yeah, and we'll take, the chosen few, with us on our limited amount of space on our spacecrafts, and we'll just heck off of this dying planet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine that it's an accident. Even if it was, like, it don't really matter, because like the end effect of it is very much like pointed at these like really powerful figures that are doing this.
Yeah.
And like being like, well, you could help people, or at the very least, we could all try to solve this together instead of, I don't know, burning up humans as literal fuel, which is not a very subtle metaphor for the horrors of capitalism.
Or putting people on ice.
Yeah, literally on ice. Like, I mean, it's not, at least as far as America goes, like, it is very applicable. Oh no, people abusing their power and, you know, the sort of unjust formation of justice and government to like oppress people and use them as free labor. Prison systems. Weird. It's just so weird. Like, it's
oh man, you sound really ill over there. Are you all right, man?
I don't know. I think it's the crushing weight of capitalism that's getting to
you're allergic. I understand.
Yeah, so like it's while it is like it's not like a super deep like anime movie.
Oh no. Yeah.
Like as anything by Studio Trigger is not really that deep. It does address things that are quite relevant and applicable to like, you know, things now, and like the solution is basically like, well, we're gonna put our hands together and work together, but like actually a little bit like maybe, right, like that, and, you know, topple your corrupt government.
I do think that it is poignant that they geared this
towards a more general, younger
audience,
possibly
and
younger
especially
audience.
For a potentially younger audience, right?
Right.
So that they would even they would be able to understand the general impressions that this movie is giving in terms of like, this guy that was apparently like the lead of everything turned out to be, you know, not great towards his fellow man.
Because it's like there is a sort of anti-corporatism in a lot of movies, even though they're commercial enterprises. And it's something that it's something that Mark Fisher talks about in his book Capitalist Realism, where a lot of movies will have anti-corporate messages, so that when you watch them, you can just like kind of feel good about it without really doing anything. Like, it's very much a like performative anti-corporatism, and like, yeah, like obviously that is definitely a part of it. But it is also so pointed. Like, literally, they're trying to escape the planet because it sucks.
Yep.
And they're like, well, we can't do anything about this. So instead of, you know, like taking a chance, basically, we're gonna do the thing that we know we could do and just run away from our problems.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I do think that there is something to be said about the fact that they connect all these issues. Like, it shows that these are all connected issues, that the reason that they're able to even like create this warp drive that like gets them out of there is because they're unlawfully imprisoning people to use as human fuel. So it's literally about the cycle of like capitalist society, where those who are already disadvantaged get taken to prison and used as free labor for corporations to make more profit, so that, you know, their rich corporate CEOs can eventually leave the planet. Like, it is not subtle. It's so not subtle.
And it all wraps into the fact that it's killing the planet faster, at least in Burnish.
Right, exactly. And the capitalism. It's I will say it is a shockingly anti-capitalist piece.
I
for
wasn't really
something that comes
this.
out of Japan. Like,
yeah, I was like,
and
really?
and we've talked about this before, where obviously like it is not like Japan is not aware of these issues so much that like the government has a lot of control over like what gets put out in terms of media. Like, it is very easy for your sort of studio to come under some amount of scrutiny for that sort of stuff, which is why, you know, they just kind of tread where they can in terms of things like LGBT representation and the like. And so, like, I am a little surprised because, like, I am surprised that I'm not, right? Because, like, if there was anywhere that was gonna, like, see straight to the heart of this issue, it was gonna be, like, hella corporate, like, destruction of humanity Japan, where they're, like, grinding people into dust in their corporate ladders. But, like, for some reason, I just, like, didn't expect it in a Trigger movie. Like, I think Studio Trigger especially has not traditionally, I don't think, ever been a studio that has ever kind of pushed boundaries. And at this point, really, I don't think this is a very boundary-pushing issue. I think most people can agree, well, the planet is in trouble if we don't keep, like, if we don't do something about this thing that we keep doing that is probably pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever taken, like, such a hugely, like, in-your-face strong stance in terms of, like...
Right.
Politics, right? Or you know,
well, like, Studio Trigger is also, like, Studio Trigger is such a, like, boys club kind of studio from the outset. Like, this is like so much what it seems like. Like, of course, this is the studio that put out Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill. It seems like such a male-oriented studio that, like...
Right. Like, I feel like if they did take a stance on this kind of stuff, like, it was either more subtle or it was just that, like, under the radar, like, not important to the central themes of the story that, like...
Right, but I think it all connects, and I think it all does so quite cleanly.
Yeah, at least in this story, like, for sure. Like, I was completely on board for...
Well, because, like, I think it's the first time that I've ever seen a Trigger work that has such a, like, clearly defined point to make.
Right.
Because the thing about Gurren Lagann is, like, well, the point is any other shonen anime just cranked up to, like, 13, where it's just like, okay, never to give up. You can't ever give up. You have to keep moving forward, even if you lose people. Like, it's gonna be hard, but you gotta keep going. And like, Kill la Kill is, like, about accepting yourself.
It's like, coming of age stories, learn about yourself, family bonds.
Yeah. Like, it is a coming of age story, and I will say that. Like, Dog and the Franxx was ostensibly about, like, the lack of sexual freedom, I think. Not that I ever watched
Japan.
It.
Let's go.
Right, chop, exactly. Chop. It's Shinzo Abe's, like, big plan to repopulate Japan. He's like, make them fuck. Oh, and don't put in any of our war crimes.
Oh my god.
But yeah, this one actually feels like it has a point to it. Like, and more to the point, it feels like that everyone kind of on the project understands the point. They're like, oh yeah, I get you. Because, like, before, even if they had, like, a quote-unquote message to, like, say, it always felt a little bit like they were a little bit confused about how to convey it. This one doesn't seem like that way.
Yeah, it felt more muddled in the other series versus this movie.
Yeah, there's a very strong sense of clarity to this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm down. Yeah, they want to keep doing this kind of work. I'm down.
Listen, so literally everything they do is the same story over and over again with a different focus. We just have to accept that at this point, everything is just an increasingly specific and obscure Gurren Lagann AU.
Bro, they have not moved on.
They have not moved on. They have never moved on. And honestly, I guess I'm fine with it. Like, I'll take it. Honestly, if they keep putting out shit like Promare, I will keep watching it. I'm so easy. I am so easy to entertain.
Me over here, I'm like, I mean, they could do a couple of this and that is a little bit better, but overall, they're just gonna keep doing whatever they want.
Obviously, I would like to see a series that they're able to do that is more like mature and like focused on character development and character arcs and like, complex writing.
Sure.
Because I think that would be kind of a cool thing.
It would be cool, but I also wonder, would that be too far of a departure from typical Trigger?
Right. Like, I think the thing is, it just doesn't really resonate necessarily with the studio, because the works that they have put out that are in that vein are very pretty, but they're pretty in the same way that something like a KyoAni work is pretty, and KyoAni has a better writing team. So like, or like they adapt things that have already have like decent enough stories. So like, I think
right.
unless they're willing to bring someone else on board to like write a cohesive sort of well-written and complex story, I don't think it really plays to their strengths, and I think that's fine. I
think that's fair.
I think the thing is, it is perfectly fine to have a studio that is just 100% focused on blow your eyes amazing animation and just having a great time. And if that's Studio Trigger, I will 100% be on board for that.
Because you know what you're at least getting into with the Trigger work.
Like the thing is, like, shows like Mob Psycho are that perfect blend of perfect animation and perfect emotionally impactful storytelling and perfect character writing and development.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, you know, a lot of shoujo manga or like josei manga has these very like kind of complex things. The animation adaptations of those, because they're not meant for like very like, they're not intended for super large audiences really, that's a very specific focused market, they don't tend to focus as much on animation. And sometimes it just doesn't look as good, even if the writing is really good. And then you have stuff like Studio Trigger over here just making like, well, I mean, what if we just make people fight for no reason? And they're like, that sounds fine to me. And I'm like, that sounds fine to me. It's right. I think when they get too ambitious, it doesn't really necessarily work out. Like, I think Darling in the Franxx was a very ambitious project, and it just never really came together. And Kiznaiver, I think, was kind of... I don't think Kiznaiver was as ambitious. Like, I think it was playing a little bit out of their normal comfort zone, and I think that's fine. It obviously was not that good of a series, but it wasn't the worst. Even though I think it was basically just like a worse Kokoro Connect. It looked a little better. But, like...
Right.
You know, I'm perfectly fine with having a studio that's focused around that. Especially because Trigger shits out original works, and I say original in quotes, like it's nothing. Because so many studios are focused around adaptation, and they don't really make a ton of new original stuff. Aside from Production IG, I think, is the studio that just keeps making the new cool looking action series, like the cool looking hollow action series every season. Because I think Production IG did Sirius the Jaeger.
Yeah.
I might be getting studios mixed up, but like that studio tends to make some pretty high quality original works. But like, I think there's a lot of credit to be had here for the fact that Studio Trigger is still making quote unquote original works, even if they're basically the same story.
Yeah. It was PA Works.
Oh, PA Works. Yeah, it was PA Works I was thinking of. Production IG, I think, adapts like Attack on Titan or something. I don't know. PA Works, yeah, I think does a lot of pretty decent stuff. And a lot of it is original stuff. Because I think it's a huge studio, actually.
Yeah?
Or maybe it's a new studio. I don't remember. I cannot get studio straight in my head right now. But yeah, like, a lot of really good anime comes from manga, but there's something to be said about really good anime that just comes out of nothing. Like, Promare is just so good.
It just came out of every other Trigger work.
Right. They just distilled it down into a delicious cold brew of Trigger. And it really works. I cannot stress this enough. It just works. And that's sometimes all I want from a Trigger work.
Please just work.
Please just function. I just beg of you. That's all I need.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, like, even if the character writing isn't as strong as it could be in a different, like, from a different studio or in a different piece, I was still so invested in this movie because it's so bombastic. Where, like, when because it's like you're a kid again, and you're at one of those like live action Power Ranger shows, and they're like, "Oh no, you have to cheer for us to give us power," and you're like, "Yeah, go!" And then they get up, and you're like, "Whoa!"
What I find interesting is that when Trigger, worked on Gridman. Like, that seemed
Gridman
like the prime opportunity to have something like this where it would be like a case of like, you know, you want the kids to get up and start cheering because it's a tokusatsu anime.
Right, yeah.
And yet the writing for the characters I felt like was a lot more mature.
You know what? I was surprised actually, yeah.
Series. Yeah. So I think that's interesting.
Well, I think that Gridman is like what certain like I definitely agree. Like, I think that the studio is really coming into its own and like really getting a grasp on what it can do. Obviously, we'll have to wait till whatever they put out next to make a distinctive judgment about that. But I definitely agree. Gridman was surprisingly good, and like what I was really surprised about with Gridman is their willingness to just not answer certain things, like just to leave you to do it. It felt like such a departure in terms of like how Studio Trigger tells stories, like in the like slideshow click click click. Like they were really willing to just let you like infer what happened, and that was really cool. So,
it was very different, and I was really surprised. I was like, is this where they're gonna go from now on? Or like I wasn't aware that it was possible for them to make this kind of series. Granted, it was a collaboration with Tsuburaya Productions, but still it was really surprising to see it come out of them, like considering we had just gotten Darling in the Franxx, which was a hot mess.
Oh, it was
and
so
then they
bad.
produced Gridman, which was really great.
Pretty good, yeah. I mean, I tend to agree. I think that like Studio Trigger has a bright future ahead of them in terms of like all signs point to yes in terms of like new series. And like it's really on them to show us what they can do. Like if they can mix something that's really fun to watch with like really mature sort of and like writing, I think that like something really, really special can come out. As is, I think that Promare is like the perfect distillation of everything that they've done in the like bombastic, over the top, we're gonna really just fucking go for it. Like obviously it is not as like batshit ridiculous as Gurren Lagann gets at the end, where there is a dude piloting a mech in another bigger mech fighting like the god of nihilism, and then he jumps his like smaller his second mech jumps out of the biggest mech, and then the smaller mech jumps out of that mech, and then the mech that is literally just his head pops out, and then that he just fucking jumps out of, and like, no, it's not necessarily that, but it feels so similar in terms of how over the top it is, and the animation is so ridiculously mind-blowingly gorgeous that you're just kind of along for the ride. Like it's they take you for a ride.
They do, and I mean, granted, it doesn't have all the mechs and the mechs and mechs. At least, like, I mean, there were a couple parts where there was a mech inside a mech. Yeah. But overall, like, I think they made up for it in terms of like how many freaking transformations people went through.
Oh, for sure. Like
so many.
The scale isn't as huge, but it's perfectly adequate because it still feels so bombastic. So yeah,
man.
If you have the opportunity, I would absolutely 100% recommend watching Promare. I do realize in saying that most people will just have to wait until they can either get their hands on a Blu-ray or they just pirate it online. Because the thing is, unfortunately for all of us weebs that watch anime movies are really hard to fucking find in theaters.
Yeah. I'm really glad that Promare had like its own debut or premiere or whatever, so that people could at least.
I hope that people really pick up these movies and keep them going for long, because I really wanted to watch Penguin Highway, but I never got the chance to.
Oh my god, I wanted to watch that too.
Oh, it looked so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I really, really enjoyed Promare. I think it was probably the best thing that Trigger has ever put out. I think it's kind of undoubted.
Honestly, I'm inclined to agree. Like, I want to own this movie, and I want to rewatch it many times over and enjoy it many times over again.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think that about wraps it up. That about wraps up all my thoughts on it, at least before I might possibly have a second viewing tomorrow. No promises. No chance. Like, there's a chance that might not happen. But, you know, there's a chance it might, so I might as well. Where can we find you on the internet? What are you up to?
I will be working on Inktober. I am also finishing up a couple of commissions on my Twitch, so you can find me on Twitch at SwanDrawn. I'm also on Twitter at SwanDrawn and on Instagram at swan.drawn. I'll probably be posting some of my Inktober stuff when I am able to catch up and post them in batches like I did last year.
Fair enough. Fair enough. As long as you're doing it.
So I hope I can keep up. So that's what I'll be up to basically for the rest of the month. It'll be fun. What about you?
You can find me all the places at Literal Soup. As always, I am going to be going to Big Bad Con, obviously. Actually, by the time this episode goes up, I will be at Big Bad Con. So, there's that. Other than that, I don't know. I have some stuff in the pipeline that I obviously have to work on. Like, I want to finish Fire Emblem. I want to get some Destiny in. I want to finish some stuff in Grand Blue. Got a lot of stuff going on. Gonna play a lot of D&D. I'm gonna try to find a good place to wrap up my Thursday game, I think, so that I can put an end to it. But aside from that, yeah, like I'll just be doing the normal stuff that I'm doing. I wish I could find some time to get some reading in, because when I was in Portland, I obviously went to Powell's, the really big bookstore, and I bought some books because I have a problem, and that problem is called literature. I really like it. Weird.
You gotta read them.
I gotta read them. Yeah, so hopefully I might find some. I probably won't, because like obviously I talked about this. I have a queue in my head. But yeah, that's all I'm up to really. I'm just gonna be. I'm not gonna be playing D&D this weekend because like I won't be here. I'll be playing probably other tabletop games, which will be fun. I don't have anything planned. I'm the worst. Like, you have to understand that when I go to conventions and stuff like that, I have zero plans. Like, there's a bunch of events you could sign up for at Big Bad, and I sign up for, like, maybe half of one. I'm so bad at it. I'm literally just gonna, like, wander around and see what happens. Like, I'll go see my friends if they do, like, panels or whatever, I think that'll be a good time. Yeah.
There's two types of convention goers: the ones who play it by ear and ones who plan out everything. So I think we know which kind you are.
I am that kind of person when I travel as well. I have very little idea what I'm doing except for like 2 or 3 key things, and then mostly food. And I just land and I just sort of wing it.
Yeah.
Okay. You can find our Twitter at AbsoluteCast and our Patreon at AbsoluteCast as well, I believe. I hope that's the truth. I'm going to double check to make sure. It's at patreon.com/@cast. Oh, I'm a fool. I'm a fool. Patreon.com/@cast. Our patrons that we have to thank. This episode is Just For Us Fall this episode. Our opening is by Scotty Network, and our ending is by Takuma Okada.
Yeah.
Aside from that, our next episode is probably going to be a summer wrap-up, and then the episode after that will obviously be the fall sampler. And between I know, we're so behind on anime, it's ridiculous. Like, I've been super busy.
We've all been.
There should be I'm going to look more into that Vimeo stuff that I was talking about earlier. There should be a trailer watch where we all watch the trailers and we decide what to watch. But yeah, should be a good season. I think Dr. Stone is continuing. Fire Force might be continuing. I'm not sure. I don't know how long that was slated for. I don't know when the Kimetsu no Yaiba train arc like movie is coming out, but I really want to watch that because I'm ready. I'm so ready. I can't wait to see what they do with the movie budget. Movie time schedule and movie budget. I mean, UFO Table is already pretty silly.
Yeah,
and that's just in a weekly anime.
Right, and in a weekly anime, like imagine that on a movie scale. Like, I'm really excited. I'm super looking forward to that. They don't have an announcement date for that, but I'm waiting. Okay.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. We will see you next time.
See you next time.
Baka mita.
We're switching it up.
Something Yakuza themed, I guess. I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Any of their songs I'm good with, man.
Baka mita. All right, cool.
Sayonara. また明日ね。